Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Courtside with Coach Crist show. I'm Greg Crist. We apologize for any delays. We've had some technical difficulties here with the mics, but we are in the Tamarack Ballroom here in Beckley at the Fellowship of Christian Athletes Victory Awards Banquet. And we are being visited now, so thankful for this, by Mr. Jerry Lucas, Hall of Fame basketball player, a great collegiate as well as pro player. And he's kind enough to come over and take a minute to talk to us here before we get started. We appreciate you more than you know.
Thank you. Very happy to be with you.
And I know we've been sitting here for 15 minutes, haven't gotten anything done yet, so we're gonna roll through it this time. I want you one more time, tell this story about John Havlicek. You told us earlier. Excuse me. You talked to us about it earlier before we got on the air. Great story. Let's hear it.
Well, John, by the way, was not going to come to Ohio State. I played in several All-Star games with John, and he was planning on going to West Virginia because he didn't think he was good enough to play in the Big Ten. So I talked him out of that. Excuse me, West Virginia, but I talked him out of that, and he came to Ohio State. And before we enrolled at Ohio State, I came to Bridgeport, Ohio, where John lived, to visit him for a couple of weeks. I met Phil Necro and Joe Necro. I didn't know who they were until then. And John was playing in a summer league, and he said, Jerry, I want you to play with me. So as it turned out, two players who would become in Hall of Fame basketball players and top 50 NBA players of all time were playing in that summer league. And so one night we were playing against a West Virginia State Penitentiary team. And the game started, and we'd been going for a little while, and they were coming down the court, and one of their guards kicked the ball. And I thought to myself, that's unnatural. You don't kick a ball like that. And he started chasing after the ball. It went down a big hill. He ran after it. There was a fence down there. He jumped the fence. There was a car waiting on him, and he was gone. That was the most unusual fast break of my career.
I keep thinking about that, and I think, he had a different game plan. You guys were worried about winning the game. He had another game plan. That's awesome. I also asked you earlier to talk about some of your fondest memories from your days back when you did play. You were talking about some of the things that you got to do and live through. Tell us about those.
Well, I was fortunate to play I had great coaches and I had great teammates. I became the first player in the history of basketball and one of only three who ever have won a state high school championship, a national collegiate championship, an Olympic gold medal, and a world professional championship. And that's the thing that means the most to me. Right. As I look down and look back at my career, having the opportunity to be excellent at those levels and do the best you possibly could. But beyond that, it was the friendships. The friendships that I developed through high school, college, Olympics, and the pros. Those who are still alive, I'm in contact with them. I text them every week, talk to them on the phone, and those are the things. Yeah, we won a lot of games. We did this, that, and the other thing, but those fond memories of the friendships that I developed are the most important to me today.
I think a lot of people that play sports would tell you those friendships and the camaraderie were what was most important. Well, I also asked you this, and I told you I was fortunate enough to get to see you play some. I was young, but I remember watching, especially the Knicks, very well. And I just wanted to find out, in your years that you played in the NBA, who are some of the best players that you got to play with and against?
Well, some of the greats of all time. Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Oscar Robertson. I don't know that the name Jerry West is too well known here in West Virginia, but Jerry was also my Olympic teammate. So we got to play in the Olympics together. And I remember a little story about Jerry. After we had won the gold medal in the Olympics, Jerry and I were talking. He said, Luke, you can't believe what's going to happen to me. He said, I'm going to go home and I'm going to sign with the Lakers. And he said, I think I'm going to make $15,000 a year.
Oh, that's funny.
So things have changed a little bit in the NBA.
Just a little bit, that's for sure. And you mentioned that change. I know, you watch basketball. I don't know if you watch NBA basketball today or not, but the game obviously has changed a great deal. And just people are just bigger, stronger, faster, and it's just a total different game now. It's a lot of three-point shooting, that sort of thing. Do you still enjoy the NBA, or do you prefer to watch college?
I never watch an NBA game.
I was going to say, I bet you.
It's not to my liking today, unfortunately. I watch college basketball. I just don't like the attitudes of a lot of players in the NBA. But I do love college basketball, and I like to watch the girls play, too. They play the game the way it kind of used to be played before it's changed so much. And as you mentioned, the three-point line, that has totally changed the game of basketball, especially in the NBA.
Yeah.
They either shoot a three-pointer or a dunk, and, there's not much in between.
Right.
And that in-between game is, that's something that's basically been lost. And it was an intricate part of the game and was a vital part of the game in years past.
Yeah. I had a discussion, my son and Joe Mazzulla, who's Boston Celtics coach, a friend of ours, and we were talking one night when he was still coaching at Fairmont about the three-point shooting. And, they, of course, they're younger guys. And with all this research and data that they have, they felt like they've come to the conclusion, obviously everybody in the NBA has too, you're better off to shoot a lower percentage from three than you are a better percentage from two, because you get 3 points instead of two. So I know that, that's the philosophy of so many of them.
I want to tell you a little story about the three-point line. There was no three-point line when I played. And we were going to play in 72. We were playing the Lakers for the World Championship. The Lakers had just won 33 games in a row that year, the all-time record. They had a great team, Baylor and Wilt and Jerry and so forth. And Willis Reed was out, so I had to play center against Wilt. And, of course, I went to our coach, Red Holtzman, and I said, Red, I have a strategy I think will really work well for us. He said, what's that? He said, I want to take Wilt out where he's never been. Because at that time, I shot the ball farther than anybody in the NBA. Right. I really did, but there was no three-point line. I said, I can take him out. He won't know what to do, and I think it'll give us a great advantage. He said, let's do it. So we came down. I came out to pass where the three-point line would be today. Wilt didn't know what to do. He had never been out of the free throw line area in his life. So I made 3 or 4 long shots in a row, and Jerry West started screaming, Wilt, go get him, go get him. And so Wilt would come at me, boom, I was right around him. I would throw it to, if I had a layup, if nobody came to me. If they did, I threw it to DeBusschere or Bradley. We were up 35 in the third quarter. There was no way that they could compete with us with that lineup. Right. They would have taken Wilt out of the game, which they would not do. But unfortunately, at the end of the third quarter, Dave DeBusschere got hurt and couldn't play anymore in the series, and we had to bring Phil Jackson in. Oh. And Phil couldn't throw the ball in the ocean from the beach. So all they did was have Wilt guard Phil, which means he didn't have to guard anybody. And so we ended up losing the next 4 games. But I guarantee you, and Jerry doesn't like to hear this, Jerry West never likes to hear this, but had Dave not gotten injured, we would have won that series.
That's fascinating. Great story. Now, were you on the team? I know you mentioned Willis Reed when he was injured and came back and played in the game. Was that in the NBA Finals? I don't remember. But I remember him coming back out of the tunnel and everybody going crazy because he'd been hurt.
That was in the NBA Finals against the Lakers again. Okay. And that was the series where Jerry made one from 3 quarters. Right. Jerry West from 3. Whoa, well, yeah. But I wasn't with the Knicks then.
Oh, okay.
I was traded for that year because of the many injuries that Willis had. Okay. They wanted me to play a forward and back up Willis at the center position when he was unable to play.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that shot. We thought it was amazing, but most people here don't remember they still lost the game, so that's why I brought that up.
Well, that shot just tied the game. Right. With today's three-point rule, it would have won the game. But that's a different time.
That's amazing. You told me you don't do a ton of events anymore. I spend a lot of time writing, that sort of thing, educational material. Want to hear about that here in just a second. But talk about this event here tonight and what we're doing here.
Well, I'm very excited to be here. It's an award to raise funds for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. They do a tremendous job all over the nation, but especially here. There are great responses and great things that happen. They minister to over 2,000 kids. They meet their needs. They help them when they need help and in certain situations. So I support them fully. That's why I'm here.
And you had told me you live in Ohio now, so it's not a horrible trip for you down here, but still a pretty good trip. And I know everybody here is excited about you being here. I know I've been hearing about it for weeks now that you're going to be here, and very, very grateful for that. You mentioned the writing that you do, and you mentioned educations. Tell us about that.
Well, I've been involved in education my entire life. People didn't know it. As a young boy, I had an incredibly active mind, had to do something. When I learned to count, I counted everything. When I learned to spell, I spelled every word I saw alphabetically and put alphabetical order, like the word cat is spelled C-A-T, but alphabetically it's A-C-T. We're speaking into a microphone, C-E-H-I-M-N-O-O-P-R, television, E-I-N-O-S-T-V, picture, C-E-I-P-R-T-U. Has absolutely no use, but it kept my mind busy and active. Had a teacher one year in the 4th grade teach us how to remember the names of the Great Lakes by seeing a picture in our mind. First time and last time any teacher ever taught me how to remember anything with a picture, because they don't know how to make intangibles tangible. She said, I want you to imagine the Great Lakes, now see homes floating all over the Great Lakes. Here's the reason why. Homes is spelled H-O-M-E-S. Those are the beginning letters of the 5 Great Lakes: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. I thought to myself, I'll never forget that as long as I live. Right. Then my next thought was, what if I could give an identity to everything I needed to learn? And the game was on. That mind found that thing to do, and through the decades, I have given a tangible identity to everything that children need to learn. Children learn automatically prior to going to school. Right. Their parents point to and identify objects. That's a chair, that's a cat, that's a dog, that's a tree. Impossible to forget. If I say to you, please do not see a zebra in your mind, it's too late. You already saw a zebra. Yeah. So those things that have an identity can never be forgotten. I've spent my lifetime giving identities to everything that children need to learn. I'm going to be creating an educational website in the very near future that will totally revolutionize the way we learn and teach.
Wow, fantastic. That's awesome. Please make sure you let us know about it, and that way we can help spread the word as well. And it's funny you mentioned that. I remember, and I was in college in 1982, 83, back in that time. I had a psychology professor, and the first day of class, he wanted everybody to associate a picture with their name. That's the way he remembered. And then he told us his. I've never forgotten his name. I couldn't tell you 3 of my professors in college, but I remember his. His last name was Shoestrom, and he said, imagine a tennis shoe with a guitar strings on it, and we're playing it. And my name is Shoestrom, and I have never forgotten that for a long time. So I know what you're talking about. That's absolutely true. That's fascinating, and we'd love to feature some of that on here. And whenever you get ready to get it out there, we'd love to do it. I was an educator myself, and I would just be happy if they could remember what class they were in when they come into my room. So I did that for 32 years. Yeah. So anyway, you mentioned to me you don't watch the NBA anymore. You do watch some college basketball. I know looking back at all the, the awards and things you won, those are, again, material things probably that you talk more about the friendship and the camaraderie with teammates and other players. But you won an NBA Rookie of the Year, I believe. You were a Player of the Year. You were in the NBA All-Star game 6-7 years in a row. You did all kinds of amazing things. And I know basketball has provided your life. I mean, that's what it started with. And talk about how that sport and coaches and teammates impacted your life even after you were finished playing.
Well, the impact that it helped me with was the fact that I became well known. When I was with the New York Knicks, I wrote my first book. I've written 60 books.
60 books?
60 of them, yes, on memory training and learning. The first one was entitled The Memory Book, and it became a nationwide bestseller, second only to All the President's Men, the book on Watergate. So people began to realize and recognize and know that I was a so-called memory expert. And so I would appear on national and regional television shows, Johnny Carson, Mike Douglas, Merv Griffin, Today, Good Morning America, hundreds of times. And I would demonstrate my ability to remember things. I'd meet 300 or 400 people in the studio audience. When I came on, I would ask them all to stand up, and I'd name all their last names. Never missed a name, done it hundreds of times. I'd memorized a 100-page magazine. I memorized 200 pages of the Manhattan phone book and demonstrated those things to just let people know that there was a way to do these things, that I wasn't a genius, that I had created the systems that enabled me and others to do this. So it gave me that opportunity and notoriety. And then people were aware of what I was doing, but they were not aware that I was heavily involved in education. They thought of me as a memory expert and not an educator, and I was heavily involved in education and changing and revolutionizing the way we would learn, the way we would teach, to make learning fun, simple, and easy for kids so they would never forget things again. Now, that's hard to believe. You'll never forget a giraffe. Right. It's impossible because every time you think of it, you see it. I've even pictured every sound in the English language. You've never seen sounds walking down the street, but I pictured every sound so the children will see them, know how to use them, and never forget them. So it's remarkable what has been created educated, and truly fascinating what's going to happen with education as a result in the future.
Yeah. Those things are fascinating. So, really talking about your life, probably more time spent in that regard than actually playing the game of basketball. You've obviously dedicated a huge part of your life to education and to learning and that sort of thing.
Far, far, far more time. When God called me to this ministry, and it is a ministry, when I came to Christ, first thing I did after I came to know the Lord Jesus Christ as my Savior, I spent a year and memorized the entire New Testament. I wanted to know Him. I wanted to know His purpose. I wanted to know my purpose. God had given me, I had honed a gift and a talent. I needed to know what God wanted me to do with that, and I realized what it was to change education in America. So I began to work. For the next 40 years, I got up at 3 a.m. and went to bed at midnight. I slept 3 hours a night for 40 years. You can't get anything done lying in that sack. And I had a lot of work to do, and I'm thrilled to do it, and I've been excited about what the results are, and what's coming is going to change hundreds of millions of young lives.
That is absolutely fascinating. I wish we had a couple hours to sit here and talk about all that. That's amazing, and the thought that you've written 60 books tells you how hard you work, because that's not an easy task, I'm sure, to write books. I know we're getting close to time here. We're going to have to let you go, and I don't want to hold you any longer. You've been patient enough with us as we've
Thank you.
fought through our microphone
Enjoyed
issues.
talking to you.
I loved it. Very
Thanks
exciting. So much fun to talk to you, and great to meet you. I'm thrilled. It's
My
been
pleasure
awesome.
indeed. Thank
and
you.
now that I've learned so much more about you, I can't wait to talk to you again.
Thank you.
So, all right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back here at the FCA event in Beckley. Stay with us. You're watching Courtside with Coach Crist on the NRN Network. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Retro Reset Wrestling is coming to you every Thursday at 9 p.m. on the New River Network. See hard-hitting wrestling action from today's rising stars in independent wrestling. If you are a wrestling fan of any generation, let us introduce you to the hottest wrestling promotion in West Virginia. You can also join a live show at the Crossroads Mall. Retro Reset Wrestling is coming to you every Thursday at 9 p.m. on the New River Network.
Welcome back to Courtside with Coach Crist. Here on the New River Network, we are at Tamarack at the Victory Banquet, I think is what they were calling it, for the FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. We just got finished interviewing, of course, NBA Hall of Famer Jerry Lucas, and now we are being joined by Marsh Fork Hall of Famer Stephen Dye. Stephen, appreciate you coming in. I noticed you got your Glenville gear on. Are you back at Glenville now?
I'm back now as the Director of Athletic Fundraising. After everything that happened at AB, unfortunate timing, I didn't have really any coaching jobs available, so I'm here doing this now and really searching to find a next place, and then hopefully God puts me somewhere where He needs me.
I know that had to be devastating for you guys to all of a sudden just up one day and, hey, we're closing, and here you have your basketball team and put in all this work. I know that had to be a tough time for you.
I'm not going to lie, it's been a very difficult year for me and for any AB alums and employees, but we tried to do the best we could to place. We had 20 kids, and we placed 19 of the 20 in a different university. Right now, just trying to figure out what's the next best move, and I love this game so much, just trying to do the best to get back into it.
Yeah, and I know, of course, and we all know it's involved in basketball and coaching. It's not an easy thing to do, just go out and land a college coaching job. You just don't get up and go out and do it one day. And I know that's got to be tough on you, but as you said, it'll work out, and I'm sure there's going to be, you do too good of a job for it not to work out somewhere eventually. I'll guarantee you that. You just got back from a Final Four, I understand. I know the college, the Final Four, the women's and men's, both a lot of talk about that. How was it out there?
It was a great time. It's a great networking and learning opportunity. The NABC does a great job putting on a convention for us in our community, the coaching community. It's a time for us to really talk and really, try to find jobs and just learn, for the best opportunities to help us come back here and coach our kids. So I love it every year, and, it's great when you get to take your dad. I took my dad last year to it, and it's just one of those experiences that us as coaches, we get to go to every year. So,
watching the national championship game, I know from a coach's perspective, I'm sitting there watching it, and I thought, man, UConn has the perfect plan, and it's working perfectly. And I don't know that everybody realizes that, but what was your thoughts on that championship game?
I'm telling you, they just move the ball so well, and they move without the ball so well. And it's not really common. You see a lot of ball screens nowadays. And I can't say I'm against that because I run a lot of ball screens too, but I really enjoy watching his teams play. They play with tons of effort, energy. And of course, his passion on the sidelines is impressive. So I thought it was a great game. I kind of like seeing two bigs go at it as well.
That's kind of unique.
It is, because you don't see that a lot in today's games. It's mostly pick and pop threes.
Yeah.
But it was unique, and I think it was good for college basketball to kind of have that game too.
Yeah, and I thought their defensive plan was spot on, where they knew Zach Edey was going to get points, and they just played him straight up. And anybody plays him straight up, he's going to score. But he shut everybody else down, and they didn't score. So I think the whole team had 23 points other than him. He had 37. They had 23. So I thought his defensive strategy was pretty good. You've been coaching quite a while now, and I know the game has changed somewhat. Looking back from your time at Glenville and then at AB, where it's at now, how has the college basketball game changed? You see it, like I said, when you're looking at it from a coach's eyes, myself, you can see it, but the average fan don't necessarily pick up on all of it, especially young kids, because they watch players, they don't necessarily watch games. Right. What's the biggest changes you see?
Honestly, I think it's followed the NBA style. It's become analytical. You look at these NBA coaches. I mean, you know Joe real well, and Joe's mind is driven by stats and numbers and every little detail, and the three is so valuable, and the mid-range jump shots just not that valuable anymore, and so it's changed the game. Also, I think European basketball, they're so much more developed right now, and the shot clock over there, they were 25 seconds in Europe, so the young kids are getting so many more possessions. It's created a skill level that's just it's a different game. But I think I like the game. As I was a three-point shooter, I love the game, so it's definitely different than 10, 15 years ago.
The game is right now involved with the NIL stuff going on, transfer portal going on. I think ultimately there's going to be some changes with that. And I know we don't have to talk about the impact that it's had because that's obvious. But where do you think college, even on the lower levels, where do you think it's all headed?
Well, I think everybody's going to have to adapt and go that route, at least while the rules are as they are in place. I know a lot of Division IIs are going NIL route. If you want to compete, I think you're going to have to. But I don't think anybody loves it. But I think as coaches,
except the players.
Well, I mean, I know I would have loved it as a player. Players love it, but it's definitely difficult for coaches and even fans to really wrap their head around what's going on. But fans want to win too, So.
Well, I've said several times, I know people always, if somebody from WU transfers, everybody goes crazy and gets mad at him and all that. And I'm thinking, if you put yourself in his shoes, his coach might have told him, hey, you don't really fit what we're doing here.
Yeah.
We'll help you get somewhere else. And he's going to get a whole lot more money somewhere else. You can't blame the kids for going other places. It's just like switching jobs. Coaches switch jobs for better money, bigger stage. Why can't a player do that? And, it's pretty tough on people right now. I don't think people fully understand how it all works. I think they just see it as a dollar sign thing. I know there's a lot more that goes into it than that. Hopefully there'll be some sort of control placed over it eventually where it's not out of control like it is now, because now it's pretty much free-for-all. Whoever can come up with the most money wins. And, that's why you kind of like seeing teams like UConn who have guys that's been there for a couple of years. I know they lost some people last year and filled some spots, but for the most part, those guys have been playing for a while. And, these mid-majors, they talk about upsets all the time. Well, these mid-major teams, a lot of them have players who've played for 4 years together. They're a lot better than these guys that are 1 year and they're, a 19-year-old freshman playing, with 5 guys they don't know. So, there's different elements to it. Hopefully they'll get it straightened out and make it better.
I do think the transfer portal, though, has kind of created some parity, and that's one good thing about it. It is tough for us coaches our best player might leave us every year.
Right.
But again, as coaches, we want what's best for our players. And in my younger career, I'll be honest with you, I didn't understand that. I didn't get that part of it. But looking back now, I really understand that, you got to do what's best for yourself when it comes to that. And sometimes going to a different school is best. And so it has created a parity that I enjoy.
Right. Yeah, and I think any of us will do what's best for us. I mean, we think it, so we can't not think that about the kids that you're coaching. But, I think, and I've said this been talking about it forever, basketball, it's creating parity. Football is a whole different story. Football, the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer, So that's why I think there's going to have to be some sort of control placed over it. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not an expert on any of that. But not going to be anytime soon, that's for sure. So, again, what's your role at Glenville? Again, tell me one more time.
Director of Athletic Fundraising. So I'm raising money for all the sports at Glenville State.
Awesome. Well, you were there for a long time, so I'm sure that, and people know you in the, in the MEC. I'm sure there's everybody knows who you are, and I'm sure that coaching job is not too far down the road. I guarantee you that. I appreciate you taking time to come out and talk to us a little bit.
Thank you.
This event here tonight, mention that real quick. What draws you here?
Well, FCA has always been a big part of my life. My dad is a regional director of the FCA group as well. And, without God, we can't do anything. So just come here and listen to a wonderful speaker and learn a lot and be a part of this community.
Awesome. When you see your dad, you can tell him, I'm still waiting to be reimbursed for an FCA event one time. I was sent Mr. White over here. I can't remember his first name. He was the FCA. Mike White, yeah. So I was teaching at Mount Hope, and we'd had some FCA events together. He asked me, he called me and said, I need a favor. I said, okay. He said, we got this guy coming to Weston. They were having some kind of FCA event at Weston. He said he's a bodybuilder, and he bends nails with his forehead and all this stuff. He did all kind of crazy stuff. This guy was a brute. He said, I need you to pick him up at the airport. And I'm like, okay, Mike, you realize, I'm in Mount Hope, and the airport's in Charleston. When do I need to pick him up? And he said, well, he gave me a time. He said, I need you to take him to Weston. I said, okay, again, Weston's here, Charleston's here, and you want me to do this on a Saturday? Yeah, if you don't, I appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. I was like, all right. So I go get this guy. He is a moose. This guy's the biggest human I've ever seen. Gets in the car. So we're driving up 79, chit-chatting a little bit. I'm trying to talk. Anyway, I didn't know anything about bodybuilding or weightlifting, but I'm trying to talk to the guy. So about halfway up, he says, I'm kind of hungry. I said, okay, we'll stop here and get you something. I said, what would you like? He said, well, the only thing I see here It's Dairy Queen where I get something grilled. I said, okay. He said, Mike said you take care of it. I was like, yeah, no problem. This guy buys like 5 chicken sandwiches that big around. And he's like, oh. That trip must have cost me $100 back in 1992. So I said, they still owe me for that trip. Never
Make sure my dad knows about
yeah, tell him, man. All right, Stephen with us. And, of course, Stephen's coached a long time. He was a thorn in my side for years in high school, played at Marsh Fork. And Gorby side as well, played at Marsh Fork when we were at Mount Hope. Appreciate you taking the time, Coach, to stop by and visit with us. Look forward to seeing you on the sideline again soon.
Thank you.
All right, buddy. Good to see you. Thank you. All right, get a quick break in. We'll drag somebody else along. Stay with us.
Retro Reset Wrestling is coming to you every Thursday at 9 p.m. on the New River Network. See hard-hitting wrestling action from today's rising stars in independent wrestling. If you are a wrestling fan of any generation, let us introduce you to the hottest wrestling promotion in West Virginia. You can also join a live show at the Crossroads Mall. Retro Reset Wrestling is coming to you every Thursday at 9 p.m. on the New River Network.
Welcome back to the Courtside with Coach Crist show. I'm Greg Crist. We are at Tamarack for the FCA fundraising event tonight, and our guest speaker, of course, Jerry Lucas, will be up here in a bit talking, and we'll be broadcasting that as he comes up to speak. Fascinating guy. Here with another fascinating guy. A lot of you probably know him, and I don't dare start trying to tell you what he does, what he's done, because he's done a little bit of everything. And this, of course, is Mr. Bill O'Brien. Bill, thank you for stopping by and talking to us a little bit.
Hey, this is going to be fun. I hope.
I hope so. I hope so, too.
Thanks, Greg.
Now, tell us, you, like I said, you've done a little bit of everything. Your broadcasting career, you've been involved in the political world. You've done a little bit of everything. So talk a little bit about your career as you've grown and where you're at now and what's going on.
Where I'm at now is pretty much finally retired again. But I was a broadcaster for, well, this coming winter, if I continue to do some play-by-play for video productions, that'll be 50 years. Wow. So that's my intention to get one more if they want me back. And I was, well, I was happy to do the Shady Spring Tigers games. They won the state title. So, most coaches, as you know, have a little bit of superstition. So they'll say, let's not change anything. So hopefully I get to do that again. So started out at Marshall on the campus radio station, did Marshall football, basketball, and baseball. And in fact, that's when Marshall Dan D'Antoni was the point guard. This is the late 60s. So Danny was leading the team, and Ellis Johnson was the head coach. Marshall won 20 games that year. This was 1967.
Yep.
So they went to the NIT in Madison Square Garden, and I got to broadcast. And the next year, 68, they went again, and I got to broadcast. So my only claim to fame is I broadcast the first radio play-by-play out of the current Madison Square Garden in 1968. And it went so well, that time ESPN didn't exist. So Marshall did well, and they used my play-by-play on Armed Forces Radio. Now it's American Forces Radio. So I'm the only one who knows any of this stuff. Nobody else cares. But anyway, did that and then came back to Beckley, and for 43 years did Woodrow Wilson basketball and football and an occasional baseball game. And that was it. So when I retired, I was bored out of my mind for a year, and the mayor's job was open in Beckley, and I'd never run for anything. I said, I can do that. I can kiss babies and cut ribbons. Oh, my gosh. Well, I won.
A little different world.
All I had to get was 4 votes from city council, so I won, and it's a whole different world. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
So my wife said, you know, if you want to run again and they want you to run again, you can do it, but you'll do it as a bachelor.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out.
Well, my little bit of dabbling, I was a magistrate for a while, and I ran for that. And I said, I will never do this again. I'm out of this picture. I don't want to do this anymore.
Oh, my gosh.
It was awful. It was awful. So I admire anybody that's been through it. I admire people that have been through it and got out of it and said, not doing it, other than people that stay in there for 50 years, you know, because I don't know. It's a different world.
It's a different world. You said it. Yeah.
You, of course, you're a legendary broadcaster here. Everybody knows you here. You know, the broadcasting bit is not. I know a lot of people think you can just sit down and broadcast a game. Not as easy as it looks. Not as easy as you make it look. You know, I know I've done some games and know from experience. You got to put a little work into it. Not an easy thing to do always.
Greg, you're exactly right. The deal is to do your homework. You know, you talk to the coaches, and I will tell you, sometimes you learn more from other sources than coaches because they're going to tell you, we take them one game at a time, you know, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, you try to get other sources to learn more about the game, about the opponent and all of that. So, doing the homework, you know, for every hour that you're on the air, you try to do at least an hour prep. That's what I did.
And I know, you know, a lot of people will say, it's not that important, but, and I told a class this one time, Gary Griffith, I'm sure you know Gary, had asked me to do a little presentation for a class he was teaching on broadcasting and any advice and that sort of thing. And I said, well, first of all, I'm not by any means a professional broadcaster. I broadcast games for 6-7 years, but I said, you know, the one thing that you make sure you do is prepare. I said, because when I listen to a game, I know whether or not somebody's prepared. I can tell by listening to them. And I said, my biggest pet peeve of all of them is when an announcer says, number 6 carried the ball down 10 yards. That drives me crazy. Like, can you not take the time to at least learn the kids' names? You know, people are just stood on the radio. They want to know these kids' names. But anyway, it does take preparation. And like I said, when you do it, you and Keith and all you guys, it's just flawless. And it's so much fun to listen to because so well done. And I know just being in it as long as I've been, I recognize it and I can see it. And I mentioned earlier that about coaching, certain things coaches see that other people don't. But when you do this and you know what time it takes and how much preparation it takes, you have a new appreciation for those folks who do it so well. And you guys do it so well.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And Keith and Gary, all of you.
Yeah, talking about Keith Thompson,
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, with Gary, I my wife gets on me all the time because, well, this weekend, for example, I'm sitting there listening to a Newberry College baseball game I had it on my phone and going through my headphones. So what are you listening to? I'm like, I listen to Newberry College play baseball. She's like, who is Newberry College? I said, they're down south. I said, Gary Griffith, those are games. Yeah. She's like, so you just listen to teams play you don't even know? And I said, you know, I'm not even really listening to that part. I'm just listening to him because I love listening to him on the radio. I said, he got a great voice. He colors this beautiful picture of everything. And I said, it's just fun to listen to when people do it well.
Well, you know, and that's the key with radio. A gentleman named Gene Morehouse hired me at WJLS and taught me play-by-play. And for those who don't know, because some people may not remember, when Gene left WJLS in Beckley, he went to become the voice of Marshall and was one of those killed in the Marshall plane crash in 1970. He was good enough. He had turned down a pro job. I mean, he was that good and was Sportscaster of the Year. One of the things he said was, you've got to do your homework and you've got to treat everybody as if it were you. So in other words, try not to criticize. These are kids. Now, sometimes, you know, if there's an official's call, you got to let them know that maybe they missed one, but try not to.
That's one of my problems I have is because where I coach so long, I know all these officials, so I don't hesitate to get on them on the air. And I usually text them afterwards and tell them, you got to listen to that. I really give it to you on that one. So, but yeah, you're right. You don't criticize kids and officials. And I say, and you know, that's not what you're there for. Obviously, you're there to talk about the game and tell the game. And now with the live stream thing, you know, I don't know how much of that you've done or TV or anything like that, but it's really a different ball game broadcasting when there's video as opposed to radio.
You're exactly right. Bobby Bolin, who is now coaching at Glenville State, was one of the organizers of video productions, along with Mark Martin out of Charleston. And, you know, when he and I worked together, and this will be 4 years now, he said, stop doing a radio play-by-play. There's a picture there, and people can see it. You know, I'm just used to painting a word picture. So it took me a while he said, be Jim Nance. And it's funny, you're talking about the voices and about play-by-play. I'm reading a book now called The Voices of Summer about Major League Baseball and all of the announcers, and it lists the top 100. And I've just started reading that book. It's a lot of fun, though.
That's an awesome book. I'll have to check that out. But, yeah, you're right. That's one of the hardest things I did because at one time I was doing radio and TV at the same time, and I really had to watch because I'd be on TV just describing everything. Listen, they're getting ready to start the event here. It's getting awful quiet in here. We don't want everybody to hear us back here yakking and laughing, so we're going to get off here and take a break, and I appreciate you so much for taking the time to join us. Legend, Bill O'Brien, folks.
Thanks.
He's the man. Thank you. We shall return after these messages. Stay with us.
Represents when we leave this earth, okay? So I just want you to understand that what FCA is doing in our community is we are wanting to impact eternal lives. This little section right here is the only time we have on this planet. That's it, and we're done. So what we do at this time is very, very important. And we have 2,000 young people attending FCA huddles every week. 2,000 ropes. That's 2,000 eternal lives. And you guys are here to help us not only celebrate that, but to support that. That's Raleigh County, Nicholas County, and Fayette County. So we're so happy that you're here. With that being said, we're going to get ready for dinner, our dinner line. We're going to ask that the tables that our speakers are seated at, if they'll go first, so that they can eat and have their mouths empty before they have to come up here. Then after that, they want everyone to go through that door straight ahead. And so this side of the room will go out and collect. You'll get your meal on that side of the table, and you'll come back in that door. This side will get on that side. Everybody understand what I'm saying? So through there, back in, back this way. We'll just start with the middle rows. I'm not gonna release table by table. Just let's work our way through as quick as possible. We have 250 people here, over double what we had last year, and we're excited. With that said, I'm gonna bless the food, and then we'll dismiss you guys to go eat. Lord, our God, our Creator, our Sustainer, we are blessed that you are here in our presence tonight. We ask that your voice be heard clearly tonight through the various speakers, and your Spirit will move among this room, speak directly to the hearts of our friends here tonight. Lord, bless this food. May it bring nourishment and strength. May your good, pleasing, and perfect will be done. In Jesus' name, we all said, amen. Speaker tables first, and then you guys can, right here in the middle, we'll start going out this way, okay? Jerry knows where the food's at. There you go, buddy. And these tables here can start, and then everyone just kind of follow him.
That's Greg. If he's ready to interview me, so yeah, just sit down. He's ready to get ready.